Hi viewers, today I will be speaking with a special person. She's part of my network. We always call her the lovely, beautiful Lan. And she's not just lovely and beautiful, but she also is very good at what she does. She has been working in the property industry for over 20 years now. So I had to do some research in that one, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
and it keeps on incrementing.
It just keeps on going, which is great. You know, part of that CV as well is... Part of that CV is valuing properties, which is actually very good. Good to know.
Yes.
But she is a buyer's agent.
Yes.
Okay. And you help people buy property. You've helped myself. You've helped my clients. I always, when I always think about referring clients there, I remember the time when you said you were running up a hill because you're trying to get signal to actually...
to get reception, to close the deal with the agent.
And get things done. And I'll tell you one thing that I'm always very comfortable with is when I refer clients to, I know they will get a property. They'll just get it done. Sorry, you would get it done, which is amazing. So welcome, Lan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Not a problem. So I guess we'll just start off with you just telling us a little bit about yourself, your story.
Yep.
What's Lan? What you're about?
Oh gosh, how long do you have, Victor?
Okay, I know you can go on forever, but we'll just keep it nice and 1 hour for all about yourself.
Yes. Okay. So my story. So I guess probably try to give you a short brief of key highlights. But my family were refugees from Vietnam, so we came over. My family came over from Vietnam in I think it was 1980, and we basically had to flee Vietnam because my dad was a captain in the South Vietnam Army. So at that time, it was either leave or potentially be captured and at jail or even death. So we were really lucky that we were able to do that. Like my dad literally had a boat and took families over. It ended up, that night the boat was over capacity by about 4 times of what it should have been because people just kind of jumped on board. Yeah. Luckily, he landed in Malaysia and then we were there, the family was there, and then we were luckily sponsored by the Catholic Church to come over to Australia, and that's where I was born.
Nice.
So then we lived there for a few years and my dad actually, this was, I say we always have pivotal moments in our life where it kind of changes the course of, the direction of our life. And he was mowing lawns for a living at the time because being, coming over here, relatively unskilled, was mowing lawns. And I don't know if I always did it, but this day I went to work with him and it was a hot day and he came back from mowing lawns and he said I'd been napping in the car and I woke up and I was all red, my face was red and it was sweaty and he said, I can't do this anymore, I need to change, do something else to support the family. So we ended up, we had families who had a restaurant further down the coast and we ended up moving down to a place called Maria and they opened up a restaurant there. And so that's how they supported, my 5 brothers and sisters and myself. And the restaurant only just... they only just retired about a year ago now. Okay. So the restaurant's, been operating for over 35 years.
Wow.
And typical small country town Asian family operating a Chinese and Vietnamese restaurant. So, but that was fun. And then I guess fast forward to moving to Sydney to study and go to uni. And I studied a Bachelor of Business in Property Economics.
Okay.
And
right off the back, it's like property.
Yeah. Well, actually, I kind of made a few changes. I started off in arts because I thought I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I better go to uni because typical Asian again have to go.
No choice.
Yes, exactly. But I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I ended up getting into property, majoring in valuations. So that's where I kind of started my career in resi valuations and then worked my way into shopping centre management and pretty much stayed in shopping centre management and commercial asset management for most of my career. And And then that was kind of a big moment, and I guess a pivotal thing that happened in my life, as you know, because we're already connected. But I was working for Colliers at the time, climbing the corporate ladder as you do, and I was married for 7 years at the time, and my husband had a heart attack and passed away. He really suddenly, so no prior symptoms. So it was a massive shock to myself and our families and everything. And then we also had a 1-year-old daughter at the time as well. So just trying to navigate, single parenthood, going back to work to support the family, then really just trying to manage my mental health, trying to work through it, and hold a job and all the rest of it. So obviously challenging time. But I think a lot of things came from that journey, I guess, as well, which is, I started doing a lot of, reflection and a lot of personal development work as well. It kind of got me on that path, and it I started reading books and listening to audio books, because before then I didn't have the time. I was just too busy working, and then I just made a conscious decision to include that in my life, and I was like, wow, I'm so much smarter for listening to all these books. And but one of the key ones for me initially was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And he taught, and one of the takeaways for me that I really resonated with was, we don't mind our own business enough, financial business at home enough. And so, and I really, could resonate, because, I was busy trying to work full time in a relatively, a pretty busy role, demanding role, trying to look after a 1-year-old on my own. She may have been 2 at the time. And then, have some free time, try to get that balance. And the last thing you're thinking about is how to plan for your financial future.
Yeah.
But that really, changed that perception and perspective for me. So I just wanted to start focusing on that. And then that really just led me to, starting my own business and wanting to build wealth with property and diversify my income streams and build wealth with property. And then I thought, well, I'm not the only one who's,
thinking about it.
Exactly. And who just can't do it on their own, because they don't have the capacity, the time, whatever reason. So I thought, I can help others do the same. And hopefully, it really means a lot that I can make an impact on people's personal lives, and as you do in your role as well. It's, when you can make an impact to someone personally and help them, and we don't appreciate how much just helping one person, that trickle effect, it can be massive. And so, having the opportunity to do that, and if I can just tell a story in relation to that, because it I've just kept on talking, but
I love it.
You ask one question. No, but I remember, back to my mum and dad when they were going to open a restaurant, no experience, and they rock up in this small town. They go to visit this property and speak to the landlord and say, can we rent this property? We want to open a restaurant. And the guy says, do you have experience? And they say, no. But, there's 5 kids in the car waiting. Yeah, mum's basically got her I think it was $2,500. That was all their savings. They literally said, we'll give you this is all we have to pay the rent. And he, out of the goodness of his heart, this kind landlord, and his name's Barry Gregg. He passed away only just a year ago, I think. But bless him, he gave my mum and dad the opportunity, faith. He fitted out the whole restaurant, and obviously that then led to them being able to support the family and then generations of our family because, the restaurant was running for a couple, 35 years and, my brothers and sisters had kids and, raised their grandkids through there as well. So, that one act from one person.
Yep, trickle down.
Yeah.
Said. Yeah.
So, did I tell you I get very easily emotional?
Please do it. I think it's a good balance. I don't get emotional too easily. Yeah.
It just really, I think it's really important to kind of recognise that we can make a difference. And so I'm grateful that I have a business that I can make a difference and, be intentional and just help.
Yeah. And I think one of the things about being a professional as well is we almost take for granted because we do it so often.
Yes.
And then it's like, we're just doing our job, we're just doing it. But to, someone else, that's just an amazing thing that we've helped them with. And I think that's the value when you deal with, as a B2C, because we're dealing with clients, we, get to see them move into that house, see the appreciation on the face. We recently helped someone as well, which was just good to see all that. So totally understand and see where you're coming from. That's an amazing story. Some part of that story I didn't even know before now. So it's definitely good to shed some light on that.
Yeah, so definitely been through a bit of a roller coaster ride, especially over the last 9 years, because my daughter now is almost 10 in September.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful, in this current position. I've repartnered and have a beautiful son now who's just over 14 months. So, heart is full.
To beat your parents, more than 5? Or are you aiming to beat your parents there?
No, not at all. Not even thinking about it. They were brave or just bored. I don't know.
Either way. Yeah.
So that's my story.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that. As advisors sometimes we hear and see so many stories like that.
Yeah.
And they're very, important in the protection side because we tell people about, just having some protection. You just never know.
Yep.
As you said, with your late husband, you just never know.
100%.
So it's good to be protected and just reinforces how so much of life is not in our control. We just need to make the best decisions and go from there.
You never think that it's going to be you. 100%. That's the thing. So I definitely, off the back of that would say protection is very important, even if you think, that's not going to be me because, that was exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
But you can never guarantee. Nothing's guaranteed in life. So,
So I think one of the things as well, we really connected on books. I remember when we first spoke, we talked about all the books and everything that we're reading. So now I think that plays a huge role in terms of just helping us, especially because, we can definitely relate to clients and then tell them, okay, well, this is what doesn't work. This is what is happening out there as well. So, okay, so... there's just 100 questions, so I don't think we're going to get through them, but all good. So I guess just zoning in on what you do, because as I said, I'm probably just going to pump your tires a lot in this podcast because I truly believe in what you do, and I've seen it firsthand.
You go for it.
So you have really delivered on all the clients that have asked that we have engaged to help you for you to help them buy properties.
Thank you.
And obviously it's because you have lots of knowledge out there. So in terms of the current trends in the property market, especially for, first home buyers, because they seem to be struggling to get a house. And then for professionals as well who want investment properties, what are you seeing? How do you actually play a huge role in that for them?
So for first-home buyers, for both markets, I guess the biggest thing would be the interest rates currently that's impacting the market, and then the borrowing capacity. So what's that's changed in terms of what you could borrow previously, and what they can now, and then what they can afford, and what's available. The other thing, I guess, with the current market and inflation, also interest rate plays a part, but the shortage of stock on the market, so it makes it more competitive. And so you really then need all the help that you can get to be able to secure the property, because vendors are holding on to their properties because they don't know what's happening, and if potentially they need to buy something and there's not a lot on the market, then they're holding on to their property because...
Even more, yeah.
So it's tightening even more. And then the market, it depends on the market as well, because some markets are moving really quickly, and so to be able to understand that market and be able to put an offer that will be accepted, it can be quite tricky when the market's moving quickly, but also you don't want to be overpaying either. So just really having an understanding of the market is really important. Those are probably, one of the two of the key things. And then I guess with incentives for first-home buyers, I'm just seeing that, with entry-level properties as well, it's, that you're then competing with investors. So it's like a really hot market in some of the places where I'm buying, because you've got, first home buyers competing against investors.
Yeah.
But then the issue that I'm also seeing is because of the incentives that the first home buyers are getting, they might make an offer that's the highest so it's accepted, but then the bank valuation comes back and gets knocked back. So, I see that, and then I end up I've been lucky in the case where a deal's fallen over because of a first-home buyer's finance, and then we've been able to come and secure the property.
Okay.
So it kind of works in the favour if I'm working for the party. So,
and I think even just one huge aspect that people may not consider, and I don't even think first-home buyers would think about this when they want to use a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Is first-home buyers, I just know straight away that it's an emotional decision when you're buying your first home, because it's where you live in, it's where you want to feel comfortable. You might want to put a post on the wall or whatever. All those are emotional things. So you bring that objectivity, because you can then tell them that, look, this is too expensive. We shouldn't go past this point.
Yes,
Let me do the negotiation and all that for you, which is a huge asset, because as we all know with I've forgotten the name, but the new toy syndrome, you buy it, and then after a few months it just wears off. But the mortgage...
it's not wearing off for 30 years,
It's not wearing off for 30 years.
Yes.
So that objectivity is really needed for first home buyers to ensure you're not overpaying. Yeah.
Well, the classic example is what I've mentioned before. They just overpay, and then, but I mean, I guess the good thing is the banks, they do the valuations, and so there's that check there. But you can get caught as well in the emotional. I mean, I was there, when I was similar, 15 years ago when I bought my first property. I wanted to just. Yeah.
Take my money. Well, not really your money, the bank's money. But
exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I always talk about when I bought my first one as well, and how, if I'd gotten better advice, it would have been different. I strongly believe in buying property and using that as a wealth creation tool, but, having that objective guide is definitely a huge thing.
Yes,
definitely worth what the dollars in that regard.
Yeah.
So I guess another thing is, do you see the property market evolving in a certain way in the next few years? What would that look like? Just for anyone listening and thinking about property, should they wait? Should they buy? Like how would you think about the evolving market?
I think there's always a good market to buy in. So whenever you're ready is a good time.
Yeah.
But in terms of...
I think the saying markets in markets, I heard that from you first.
Markets within markets.
Markets within markets, yes. There we go.
So, and that's what I say. You can't just go, the market's going to, bomb out, or no, you'll find that there are markets that don't. So it's also... what else is happening in the market at the moment? Regional markets are pretty strong, and I think they'll continue to be that way. Post-COVID, it was strong, but I think the difference is not everywhere, not all regional markets. You need to look at regional markets where there's a diverse economy and, population growth and infrastructure spend, things like that. But regional markets, will continue to do well. And then also I'm finding that there's more of a disparity between unit prices and house prices now as well. So then more buyers are going, let's buy a unit. And so then there's opportunity for some unit markets to have good capital growth. But that's where it's more where it's typical for units within that location. I wouldn't say that'd be the same for, a suburb where there's mainly houses, and that's the ideal scenario there. So that's quite a big difference, because usually you would see houses, capital growth potential for houses like far outweighing units.
Yeah, generally, yeah.
So, but again, it's markets within markets. So.
Yeah. So just talking about, as you're saying, about markets within markets, I think for people, especially first-home buyers, they should be clear that it's an emotional decision, and so it shouldn't be about making money. If you make money in that process, that's great, because thinking about apartments and lifestyle, it's very important to ensure that emotional need is taken care of.
Yes.
But at the same time, at a good price. So definitely market within markets, apartments, and all that. I think it really depends on the buyer's need at that point in time.
Definitely their long-term goal and, their current situation.
Yeah. So I guess from a financial perspective, what should professionals think about when you're trying to buy a property? And I think, think about high-performing professionals where they don't really have the time and, they're trying to engage your service. What's a financial consideration they should potentially have?
Definitely just understand what their budget is and stick to that, because sometimes if you don't have a budget in mind, or, it's kind of a bit airy-fairy, then you don't end up doing anything because, you haven't made a decision. So I think it's good to just set a budget, stick to it, make a plan. And then hopefully, if you need a buyer's agent, I can help execute that.
I would argue, I said I'm going to pump your tires, but I truly believe in it. I would argue that a high-performing professional, why are you wasting your time trying to buy a property? And a high-performing professional will probably be an executive in a job or, sergeant, whatever it is. And if you think you're a high-performing professional, you should use comparative advantage where you focus on increasing your human capital.
Yes.
Where they can actually use you to buy more properties in the future than trying to save dollars on just buying the one property. Yeah. Because your most valuable asset is your human capital, your ability to actually generate income, because the bank wouldn't give you money if you're not. I would say, then should be easy to buy.
Well, good. You have those conversations for me. Thank you, Victor.
Done. I will definitely do that.
But something else that they should consider, just understand that buying property, it's a long-term investment. It's expensive to get in and out of properties, so just understand that, you're set for, 30-odd years or whatever. That's a smarter choice to when you understand that it's a long-term play. Not kind of a get-rich-quick scheme.
True. Yeah. True. Yeah, because property does take time. It's done well over the last few years, but doesn't mean it wouldn't. But the long-term prospects for property are still good.
It is. It definitely, the market definitely fluctuates, but overall, long-term, the pattern is that it's continuing to increase. But then, again, that's basically, if you've bought the right property within the right location. But typically that's the pattern.
Because even the macroeconomic factors that lead to the value of property growing are good. Australia is a very desirable place to live. There are lots of people that will still come into Australia. It's always, the top 3 cities are always top 10 in the most desirable place to live in. So, those factors will help long term. It can ease from time to time, but it will definitely help long term. I definitely still believe in diversification. So not everything in not everything in property. And I guess with those high performing professionals or just anyone in general, what's the best way to prepare financially to buy a property, and so that when the right property comes, which is just an opportunity, sometimes you can't control that. You've done everything you can to be ready to say yes, let's do it.
Obviously, chat to you. But apart from that, save for a deposit. That's obviously an important one. But also factor in the other costs that are involved in purchasing a property as well. So, your stamp duty, legal fees, and any other fees. And I think I usually say 5% on top of the purchase price usually covers it. and I guess having a investment savvy mortgage broker as well on your side. That's really helpful because it's really important to structure a loan properly, especially if you're looking to build out your portfolio, because you should be planning ahead a few properties in advance, because you don't want one property tied up. And then also there's so many different loan products out there as well, and one lender may approve 500K, another lender may approve 600K. So having somebody who has access to all the products and also understands how the loans should be structured for your individual situation. I think that's really paramount. And I think the other thing would be just to build in that buffer.
Okay.
So
that's a very good point.
Yeah, build in the buffer because, just say you lose your job or you can't rent out your property for whatever reason. Having that built in obviously is going to give you that peace of mind. For me, I always say, 6 months is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
But then if you're, more risk averse, then maybe you want to build in 12 months. But it shouldn't stop you from taking action.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think one of the key things I've seen with people generally, just in terms of building wealth, is have a time frame.
Yeah.
So to those people that may not want to use a buyer's agent, and it's like, well, if you haven't done anything in 2 months,
yes,
you're probably not going to do anything. So, get someone that can actually help you put things in place. Or, just having a time frame where you're looking at a certain range of property, but there's nothing within that range. You need to drop that range, go above that depending on, your situation. So I think having a time frame is very, very important in all those things as well. So no, that's great. So in terms of location as well, right? Obviously, there are markets within markets, and I'll say that there are locations within locations. How important is that? And I'll touch on the story, but I'm keen to hear your answer as well. Location, right? So it's really important because location does most of the heavy lifting for properties, and because a lot of the time you need to be looking for things like, proximity to employment nodes, population growth, accessibility to amenities, school catchment areas. Like there's a raft of location factors that are really important to drive that market. And infrastructure is a huge one as well. Infrastructure spend, yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So, because that, you can look at a suburb, and if it's getting like a lot of development and improving the amenities and the accessibility of that location, then you'll find that then you'll see the growth because people are, drawn towards that area for that whatever reason it is. So there are a number of, location factors that are important. So definitely a key one. Yeah, yeah.
And obviously with all this infrastructure, we just council or government spending a bit there, there's literally the flow on,
Yes.
There's construction workers that would come there, whether temporarily or permanently, and they would create more jobs. They'll get more restaurants to open, those restaurants would then need other services, and it just flows on.
Yeah.
And it kind of build, will I say an ecosystem that is now self-sustaining. So I think those projects are very, very important.
Yeah. So it's the projects that kind of continue to offer employment as well. Like, so it's, I guess, roads versus shopping centres. So, you finish a road or a bridge, and that's done. But then, a shopping centre, obviously more flow on.
Yeah, exactly. More people. Yeah, very, very important. Yeah. Wise woman, Lan. So I guess the other point I was trying to make as well, which recently happened with a client, we were trying to find a property in a certain place for them, and then you're like, well, okay, let's pivot here because it's so hard to find in this place.
Yes.
And then if we looked at the growth in those two places over a longer period of time, you actually potentially will have more growth in this new place. And I think sometimes people want the growth now, and they're running to where everyone is running to.
Yep.
And yes, that can be good if you get something there, but it can also be detrimental because you might not be patient enough to wait out the growth.
Well, yeah, exactly. So so that's why it's really important as well. So with that client, it's knowing when to like when to buy in that market and then when to step away from the market and look elsewhere, especially if you're obviously tied to a budget, which a lot of the time, if you're an investor and also, your borrowing capacity, you'll be tied to a maximum budget.
Yeah.
And so there's always opportunities. You just need to be able to move, quickly, be nimble in a market. So I try to help my clients do that.
Yeah. Very important, as I said before, bringing that objectivity. So, yes, first home buyers may need it more, but the professionals as well, because some people, especially high-performing professionals or business owners, they lock into something. You're like, no, I want to do it there, but it's like, well, actually, there's this other thing that is better just because you can't get it in that certain location. Yeah. So, no, that's good. So, can you walk us through the typical process of buying a property, I guess from the initial search to closing the deal?
Yep.
And each time I think about closing the deal, I'm thinking about running up the mountain, getting reception. Yes, let's do this. Let's close it. Yes. So what does that process look like?
So the most important one at the beginning would be just setting that brief, the client brief, understanding, the budget, location, property type, and your number of bedrooms. And then from that process, I usually do my research and source properties online and offline. So online, all your real estate domain. Offline would be talking to agents, seeing what they have and being on their database or having them call just to see, if they've got any opportunities as well offline. I would say, though, that, offline or off-market properties aren't always the bee's knees, because sometimes there's a real reason why they're offline, because they've been online and nobody wanted to buy them. So there's not a, because I know that gets talked about a lot, buying offline. But I think, it's really just, case-by-case basis. And then after a property's been shortlisted, arranging walkthroughs or video walkthroughs for my clients. If the property is, deemed, a success, ticking all the boxes, negotiate that on behalf of my client, and then start the due diligence process as well, which is arranging pest and build reports, getting the contracts reviewed, liaising with the mortgage broker as well, and just helping them through to settlement, basically anything that needs to be done within then. Like if there is a quote that needs to be done or some things need to be looked at coming out of the pest and build report, then I'll assist with that as well. And then if it's an investment property, just sourcing the property managers as well. So start to finish, so it can be, a streamline and kind of hands-free. As much as possible if the client wants. And if they want to be more involved, then they can. Yeah. But, the point is for them to not have to do anything if they don't want to do anything.
Focus on other things. I remember once as well when a mutual client sent you a link of a property that they wanted to look at, and obviously jumped at that straight away. So that's someone that they still want to look, but they want to do everything. But you looked, and then you kind of came back with certain reasons why that one wasn't good after speaking to the agent and all that, which is quite good. And I was thinking as well, one thing that because I know your process for sure. One thing you haven't mentioned as well is you send them reports. And these reports and these reports are actually quite very important, because people have different personalities. Some people are visual, some people are, auditory, some people are auditory, digital like me. And we love the reports. We love the graphs. We want to see all that. And while there's other people who just say, the property looks good, puts the pictures and everything.
I do. So I do independent research reports based on the criteria, your budget, location, and we'll narrow down the location for the client so that they can have some options, but that should be ticking the boxes for them.
So which I think is very, very important, because not everyone has access to those tools, and that's a edge you have as well as a professional, just being able to share those tools with them. So, and with that process as well, people may not think about it because they're like, I'm going to go buy a property. But buying a property, whether you use a buyer's agent or not, and I've said my views on that, you still have to deal with about 5 other professionals in that process. There is the building inspector, the conveyancer, the mortgage broker, and obviously if you're dealing with the bank itself. So so many people that it does take up time.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And also, because I do it often and, I've got the relationships, it's just a more streamlined process. And I know when people need to be given certain bits of information. And, I often as well, like one of the things that I can do for my clients is I shield them from some of that stress, because if something comes up with the property, and if you were doing it yourself, it can be quite stressful to hear whatever news. It could be some termite damage or whatever. But usually if I receive the information, I would have come up with a solution for them already. So then when the news is delivered, here's a solution as well. Because sometimes if you're doing it on your own, and, a lot of the time, buyers would potentially just throw in the towel and, okay, let's move on.
Yes.
They've wasted so much time, looking at this property. But, and sometimes you do have to walk away, and other times it's salvageable. So it's just a matter of understanding, how big a deal of it is, the issue that's come up.
Yeah. And not to mention just even the building reports you would have seen.
Yes.
There'll be hundreds of them. And when you're buying a property yourself, you're probably just seeing 1, 2, let's even say 4 reports. You don't know what to look for. You don't know what is serious versus what isn't. So.
Well, sometimes when property reports come back really clean, I'm like, oh, what? I'm like, is there a page missing there? I have to really double check with the inspector to say, is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
And some, and again, it's also managing expectations for clients as well, because just giving them a little bit of peace of mind, because in most of those reports, they will. It seems a lot more serious often than not, because they need to just cover their own ass, really.
Correct.
So it's really just reading between and understanding, okay, what are the actual red flags, and what's fine to kind of.
Yeah, I think I was one of those clients, Lan, where when we got the report, I was like, no, let's go. I was like, no, Victor's
relax,
fine.
Victor.
Calm down.
You'll get a 7K discount or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine. We'll get it fixed,
Yeah, exactly. And you generally know how to navigate that with the vendor saying, okay, fix this or give us a discount.
Yeah.
And back there, and once they've gone that far, most vendors don't want to back out. So they'll either fix it or just give you a discount, which is a win-win.
Yes.
It's a win for both people, because if there's a defect, you need to fix it, because it shouldn't be just passed on like that.
Yeah.
While as some buyers may not even have the courage to then want to negotiate strongly for that.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Okay, so This is probably for the people that don't want to use buyer's agent, but let's feed their curiosity.
Sure.
What are and we've touched on it a bit. What are the tips for negotiating a price down?
Okay, so I would say know your limits.
Okay,
that's important. Know the vendor's motivations. Know the agent's motivations, and know the market. The 4 no's.
Okay.
Not N-O. K-N-O-W. Those 4 are really important to be able to negotiate well.
Yeah, because they always talk about when you're buying a property, if the vendor is one of the triple Ds, which is the death, divorce, and forgetting the last one as well. But if it's one of them, you have bargaining power, because they really want to get rid of the property. There's no emotional attachment.
Yeah.
There's no endowment bias and saying, okay, well, I think my kids grew up here, so I feel this property should be X amount.
Yes. Or even understand, okay, well, they've already bought somewhere else. So, potentially being able to offer a lower settlement period that will help them. So just understanding those things.
Yeah, or one where you sign a contract and you have a longer waiting period because you're moving or something like that.
Yeah, or you can have a longer settlement. So just understanding the vendor's motivations and what they need, and then, being able to offer them what they need And so just dangling that carrot. And then, of course, you know, trying to reduce the terms as much as possible, like waiting times for the agents. I always try to do that as much as I can because they just want the sale done.
And that's a very interesting perspective because you obviously you came from the angle of giving the vendor what they want.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, some people want something, and it might not just be the best price.
No.
But they might be going about getting what they want by the best price. But it's like, well, okay, do you want this? Do you want a shorter waiting period? Do you want?
Yep.
And actually giving that to them. So the last D just came to my mind: departure. If people leave in the country, you know, that's his bargaining power as well. So okay, interesting. Yeah. So those are great tips. How do you help clients when you're buying interstate for them, which is a interesting thing that I think many people in, you know, Sydney and Melbourne don't really think about because the prices here are, you know, on the high side.
Yes.
It's like, well, you can buy somewhere else.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like basically the process that I go through, that's pretty much what I go through. And then I've got, you know, support on the ground in whatever location where it's required as well. And I always tell my clients, especially for clients who come in that want to, you know, buy in their backyard, I'm like, well, you don't really need to. Why do you need to go and, you know, drive past your investment property and, you know, wave to the tenant, you know, get
and
a good...
the tenant's going to be like, who's this?
Yes,
you know who you are.
You know, there's that stalker owner again. You know, just get a good property manager and have that peace of mind that way. Yeah, that's the best way to do it, I think, when you actually live far away from your property because you aren't stalking the tenants and you can just be a bit more free, have that mind freedom and just, you know, look at the reports when they come in and the income when it comes in.
Yeah, exactly, which is pretty much the most important from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you've mentioned a huge factor there as well. Because you do this every day, this is what you get up and do.
Yes.
It's not like you just buy one property and that's it.
Yeah.
You have people who you can rely on to give you a good analysis of an interstate property. You have good people because even from a conveyancing perspective as well, they'll need a different conveyancer if the conveyancer in Sydney is not really knowledgeable on, let's say, Western Australia. You know, so you would know all that because you already help with stuff like that, which is actually amazing and a good skill to have. Okay, so this is where you get to tell people what are the main benefits of working with you. I think I've done my job because
thank you.
You've heard from someone that has used you and so on, and obviously because with my clients, I love it if they have, you know, one or two properties as well. I think it definitely adds value to the wealth creation perspective, you know. So, but what are the benefits of using you, and especially around the investor market and you know, professionals that don't have the time?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first and most obvious one would be the time-saving element because, obviously you're saving time researching the market, sourcing. And then on top of...
Sorry, question, what's the quickest time you've helped someone?
Probably like 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah?
Yeah. And then it would be saving them money. So being able to buy quicker because I can, you know, look into properties, you know, go and inspect 30 to 40 a week if I wanted to, if I needed to. Whereas, you know, if people are doing it on the weekend, that's 4 or 5 that they might be going into. Yeah. So being able to just...
And that's just in one location if they can, because they can't be driving.
Well, exactly.
And they can't go into states. So.
No. So then being able to then do the research in a much smaller or shorter time frame, and so being able to secure it sooner, and then especially if it's a rising market, you know, that could be saving 10, 20, 30,000 there because I'm able to do it, you know, more efficiently. And then understanding the market. So, you know, with my valuations background as well, understanding and being able to, I used to do valuations all around Sydney, and so I think I just know how to, you know, value a property. You know, I can't technically value a property, but
there's that intuition that comes with having the roles you've done and even just studying that, and there's that clear intuition. Sometimes you can't explain it, but it's like that's overvalued.
Yeah, you know, it's a bit of an art sometimes. So it's just understanding the market, is really important, because then it means that you're not overpaying for a property, but then you're not, providing lowball offers that then get rejected, and then, you don't get the property. So that's, key, and, reducing the stress for the client as well.
Yeah.
And basically, with first home buyers, as mentioned before, like it's so stressful to buy, your first home or a property. And then, I remember my first property, was so stressed until I got the keys in my hand. And so, but, I've got a process that I go through with my clients, know what questions to ask and when. And so it's just much more smooth, and, really it's just taking that time and that stress away from them.
Yeah.
And, I think those are kind of like the key ones.
Key benefits,
yeah.
I would also mention that, one of the things about using professionals that I always talk about is the opportunity cost. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a huge opportunity cost, because some people end up not doing anything. And it's like, well, I didn't lose any money. It's like, no, you're losing money every day, because if you had gotten this, you'd have been getting money. So you're not getting that. There's 100%. The opportunity cost as well, that if you, let's assume in a couple, one person loves this and the other doesn't love that. There's an opportunity cost, because you're not spending time with your loved ones, which is huge as well. I always say as well, in terms of comparative advantage, you cannot get someone to go work out in the gym for you.
Yeah.
You cannot.
I wish you could.
Same. I wish you could. You cannot get someone to spend time with your loved ones for you. So those are things that you cannot outsource.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, you outsource what you can, and then you do what you have to do, which is very, very important.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think it's, know the value of outsourcing in life as well. Like, that's really important.
Yeah.
Which professionals and, people, work in, I used to work in corporate, and, you understand that you're going to get a better result if you're working with someone who specialises in that thing.
Yeah. And for people trying to choose a buyer's agent, what is the best way for them to actually choose a good buyer's agent? What would you? Let's assume you're not a buyer's agent, but you know all you know now.
Yes.
Because because you're a buyer's agent, I tell them to use you. Coming from a client. But if you're not, what should they look for?
Look for the chic buyer's agent logo. Just kidding.
Done. That's it.
They need to have their real estate license. Like, that's a bare minimum to be working as a buyer's agent. So legally they should have that. What else? They should, obviously it's ideal if they have some experience, a couple of years experience at least, in buying and in property, because it can be quite complex in different markets as well. And, there's different things involved. You've got legal, you've got, construction. So there's different facets that, for me, like, for example, when I used to work in shopping centre management, I used to manage fit out. So I understand the construction side and needing to repair, and, so there's just, if you have experience in property, and that is always helpful to have somebody, who's had that experience.
And sorry, I'll just touch on what you just said now, which just clicked after you said so, because I never thought about infrastructural spend as shopping centres being a lot more valuable as a location than roads, as you said. But, that comes from the experience you've had, because, in shopping centres, they need to fit outs and fit-ins every time. Yeah. So that creates more jobs. So in that location, they're probably going to have a better outcome in terms of value of land and value of property than if they were just building roads, which only comes because you have had that experience in property in that field. Yeah,
and it's that critical mass of having something where the community wants to go to as well. So if you just had one kind of standalone store, or it wouldn't drive so much as well. Yeah. So that's important. Knowing where the buyer's agent is getting paid. Like, if you aren't paying them a fee, then most likely somebody else is paying them a fee. Yeah. Which means that where is their loyalty? So just
no free lunch.
Well, so it's basically, because I know, like, there's a lot of property spruikers out there who can be viewed as buyer's agents, but obviously they're not. So often they could be getting paid by developers or other ways. But so it's important to understand, like, it's a fee for service. It should always be a fee for service.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's something going on.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things with working with service professionals as well, you just need to be comfortable with the way they talk, which is a very small thing.
Yep.
Obviously, if you had no choice, but you just need to you need to be able to have dinner with them.
Yeah.
I think that's the way I actually see things when dealing with clients. You need to be able to, and maybe that might be more from the financial planning side, because yours is slightly more transactional than financial planning, because we see the clients every time, while as a client might come to you over a 5-year period for 2-3 properties.
Yeah.
Okay. But
I think it is important that you can find somebody who aligns with your goals. And I guess that's kind of similar in that way, because, everybody has a different goal and long-term picture and view for their life. And it's important to be able to have somebody who can assist them get there, but also to be able to provide them with some feedback and to just educate a little bit on, what's going on in the market, and they can make that informed decision themselves.
Yeah.
But being able to work, with what they want to achieve, I think that's important, rather than just pushing their own agenda.
Yeah. So that is great, Lan. I have learnt a lot about you, and even about shopping malls and why they can provide a little bit more value than just the other infrastructural projects.
Yeah.
So what is the best way for people to contact you if they want to buy a property, or if they just want to pick your brain, or
sure.
they want to refer you to others?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Lan Ta, or Chic Buyer's Agent. I've got Instagram, Facebook, or website, chicbuyersagent.com.au.
Okay, perfect. But thanks a lot for joining me, Lan.
Thanks for having me.
It's been amazing. It's always a great chat to have you, and it's always good vibes, good times with you.
We love good vibes.
Yeah. So thanks, viewers, for watching. Hope you've learned a lot. Please feel free to reach out to Lan. She's one of the best that I know, and she'll get the job done. And follow and like us and share for more educational content.